The Accidental Entrepreneur is brought to you with the help of our sponsor, AWeber, the world's leading small business email marketing and automation service provider. Since 1998, AWeber has helped more than 1 million small businesses and entrepreneurs through its suite of web-based email marketing, automation tools, and education. AWeber, the best option when it comes to marketing your business. The podcast is also brought to you by the Alternative Board. Since 1989, the Alternative Board, or TAB, has been one of the leading peer advisory and business coaching organizations for independent business owners and CEOs across the world. By facilitating peer advisory boards, private one-on-one coaching, and strategic planning services, TAB helps business owners improve their businesses in ways that change their lives. And be sure to check out our affiliate sponsor, One of One Productions, the New Jersey-based podcast studio that produces and edits both audio and video podcasts. They sell equipment for the avid podcaster and have even created a guesting kit exclusively for our listeners. And be sure to support the podcast by ordering some logo merchandise from our online store. Listen to all of our sponsors' commercials later in this episode and follow their links in the show notes to learn more about their products and services.
Absolutely. But there are a few key issues with, basically before this platform. So first of all, I need to want what you offer. You need to want what I offer. What we both offer needs to be of equivalent value, and it needs to be at the same time.
Right.
So there are so many things that need to line up, and the chances just aren't high that everything will line up nicely there. So essentially, our platform uses credits. I can deliver work to you. You pay me 1,000 credits, and I can then use those credits to source something from you. Or if I'm not looking for what you're offering, I can then use those credits to source something from someone else on the platform at a different time.
So they don't necessarily have to exchange money. A lot of people are just starting up or whatever, so they can swap services.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, welcome back to another episode of the show. We have another great guest today. I think Karl, the youngest guest that I've had on the show, so you'll hear from him in a minute. But I wouldn't say that he's that new to entrepreneurship, and he's got some great successful stories and some things to share with us. So if you are listening on your favorite directory, please leave us a 5-star review if you can. If you're watching us on YouTube, like us, subscribe to the channel so we can keep bringing quality guests like Karl today. So let's get on with today's show.
The information provided in these episodes is for entertainment purposes only. It is not a guarantee of success or to be construed as advice of any kind. You should always seek advice from local licensed professionals before making any decisions.
The dictionary defines an entrepreneur as a person who organizes and manages any enterprise, especially a business, usually with considerable initiative and risk. People often start a business without much choice, perhaps due to a job loss or just being dissatisfied at work, and they come up with an idea they just know can be successful. They become entrepreneurs by accident. That is to say, their success or failure happens by accident, not with intention. My name is Mitch Beinhacker. I'm a corporate attorney and a business advisor. You're listening to The Accidental Entrepreneur, my podcast about how to achieve success on purpose, not by accident. Join me along with our monthly guests where we share our knowledge and help you get a hold of your business. And now on to today's episode.
Hi, I'm Karl, and I'm the founder of Revolancer. And I've been a serial entrepreneur since I was 14. I actually started freelancing when I was 13, and my goal with Revolancer today is to bring freedom back to freelancers and improve the industry as a whole. And I'm really excited to be talking on this podcast today.
All right, Karl. So Karl Swanepoel is Karl, you're in London, right?
Well, not quite. I'm in Wales at the moment, but
you're in England. I meant to say away. I don't want to. Yeah, I mean London. I'm in England, and it's afternoon there, so it's about 6 hours difference between the two of us. So I appreciate you taking the time on a Friday afternoon when it's probably pubs are gonna open soon. All my friends over there are like, it's happy hour, and I'm like, it's 1:00 here, So, but I'm excited to talk to you about your quote unquote history because you're only 23, but you are building a pretty big freelance community, and you've done a lot of stuff. So maybe we can go back a few years, when you were younger and got started in entrepreneurship and why the bug bit you. And I think you have some things you're involved in, some shows and things like that. So I'll let you take it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me, Mitch. It's a real pleasure to be on. I actually got started probably about 10 years ago. So I started freelancing when I was 13 and then got more into sort of the entrepreneurship and wanting to start like a much bigger business when I was around 14 or so.
Yeah.
Took me quite a while to actually get there.
Right.
But along the journey, I had access to very many experiences, lots of different contacts that I made. So even though a lot of the stuff that I tried didn't really go anywhere, I wouldn't do it any differently if I could go back.
Building your network, right? Now, what were you freelancing? Were you doing? Was it tech or design or marketing? What were you doing?
Yeah, so I actually started with graphic design and then went into web design and development as well a bit later on.
Got it. Was it hard to get people to hire a 13-year-old kid to do? Maybe 20 years ago, there's nobody. All the young people were the only ones that knew how to do websites. But was it hard?
Well, I mean, it's not like I kind of made a living from it particularly quickly at the beginning.
Right.
But I would say, I didn't kind of advertise the fact that I was 13. So
right.
I think, I probably had a more of a fair shot.
Yeah. Okay. So how did you get your business in those days? Was it like local people, or were there online sites you were using, or how were you doing it then?
Well, actually, I started by using different freelancing sites because there have been there are quite a few freelancing platforms that have existed for a very long time.
Yeah.
But within just a few months of using them, I kind of came to the conclusion that these platforms do not work for freelancers, and ultimately that led me to build my own platform when I was 15. But so I did get started on other platforms, but just realized back then, and it's only been reinforced over time, that they're not serving freelancers quite right in the way that I think they should.
Right.
And that's what I'm trying to do something about now with Revolancer.
Right. Well, they were freelancer sites, though, right? I mean, they were supposed to be serving freelancers.
Sure, but I think with any two-sided marketplace, you kind of have to choose one side to focus on. And traditionally, freelancing platforms have focused more on the clients than the freelancers, so trying to keep the client happy.
Got it.
But in my opinion, if you focus on the freelancer and keeping the freelancer happy, ultimately that's how you deliver the best experience to the client as well, because a happy freelancer with the best possible workflow is ultimately what a client is looking for.
Yeah, absolutely. So those were things like Upwork and Fiverr and those kind of things. There was other sites that don't exist anymore.
Yes. So those two, Upwork also had a different name prior to their merger. So they were Odesk and Elance, and then there were a bunch of others that aren't around today anymore.
Got it. Okay, so let's talk about the entrepreneur side of it, right? So you're out doing freelance. You're not really, right? You and I both agree that freelancing is not necessary. I mean, everybody thinks of themselves as an entrepreneur, but you're just, finding jobs and doing work. You're not really running a business or have the concerns that a business owners have. So what did you do when you started building or when you said, okay, I think I should do this as a business because I can do it better? What did you do? You were 15 years old. Did you write a business plan? Did you go seek out help from somebody? Did you take a course online? I mean, what did you do? Just kind of wing it?
I just kind of winged it, to be honest. So I kind of thought, well, what's the first step?
It can't be too hard, right?
Yeah, so the first thing I needed was a website. So then I went online and I found this really kind of dodgy PHP script that was like a kind of a functional copy of Fiverr, and I bought that for about £200 or so.
So
that was my whole budget.
Or it was like a working framework, so you have to start from scratch.
Exactly, but I did have to modify it a little bit myself as well.
Yeah.
And then essentially I just had the website up. That was my whole budget. I didn't have any money to promote it then, so nor did I know anything about advertising online. Right. So I basically just went onto Twitter, found where people were talking about my competitors, and then told them, why don't you also join my platform and get more exposure? And I just did that over and over again every day, and then grew the user base to more than 2,000 people.
Just that way, organically, with no cost?
I mean, I wouldn't call it quite organically, but it was completely at no cost. Yes.
Yeah. Well, that's a lesson for people, right? There's a lot of things you could do from a bootstrapping basis when you don't have capital. So the fact that you didn't have capital wasn't like an obstacle for you. You're just like, well, I got to figure out another way to do it. I have no money left. So you didn't give up. But I think a lot of people do. They go, well, I'm not going to spend this money. I can't do it. And they don't look for options. Maybe because you were younger, you knew more of the social media platforms. But I think there's a lot of ways to connect now with people Like you said,
Yeah.
you're building a network since then, right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, this is one of the things I'm very grateful for, actually. With for most of my, I guess, life as an entrepreneur, I had very small startup budgets. If anything at all,
Right. Which
and
is
it
true for a
made
lot of
me very
people.
creative.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. You have to be creative. And I think ultimately that serves you because I think if you have a lot of money, you just tend to burn through it and you just spend money on things, trying things, and you're not careful about, or strategic is a better word, right? About what you're doing and how you're doing it and why,
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
why you're doing it.
I think it's really important for anyone who's looking to start a business to, at the beginning, start with less than you would ideally want, because that way you can be a lot more creative, and then as you get more capital in, you can spend it in a much smarter way.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so take me through the evolution of this. That's really been your business though since you're 15. That's what you've been working on because you're 23. So that's you're talking 7-8 years. You've been
Well,
building.
that definitely my kind of exposure to the industry has been that long, even a bit longer now. But this platform that I built back then was not Revolancer. And the platform that I built back then, I actually ended up having to sell in about 6 months because I was too young to have a PayPal account.
Oh, that's funny.
So they didn't like that. Yeah,
Be 16 or older or something, 18 or older.
18 or older.
18 or older. Okay.
Yeah.
So I mean that's something I look. I deal with a lot of young entrepreneurs. We ran an academy for a little while here. And that was a challenge. Some of their parents had to be on the documents when they're under 16. I think you can set up a business in New Jersey if you're 16. Maybe you can't have a PayPal account, but yeah. So it's like you could set up an LLC or a corporation, but I guess you can't set up a PayPal account. So you'd have to have your parents do it. So okay. So that was a learning experience. So then you sold that, and then what did you do? You're still in school, I assume, at that point, right?
I was, yes, and I did actually approach my parents and I asked them if I could have a PayPal account in their name, but they, and I quote, they didn't want to lose the house, so that was a no. But I did manage to sell the platform, which was a really positive outcome. I sold it for many times, my kind of initial startup investment just before my 16th birthday, and yeah, I was still in school at that time. In fact, I think just after that, I was a brand ambassador for the business conference, which is the largest business conference in Europe. And they invited me to that, when I was 15.
They heard about your business. They invited you, or you applied, or how'd you hear about it?
They reached out to me. In fact, I remember getting the email and kind of thinking that it might be a scam, just because,
yeah,
it kind of sounded a bit too good to be true. But no, they did reach out to me, and then. Yeah, I luckily responded.
I think there's a whole industry of businesses that create, like, the 500 fastest growing businesses in your area, and then they get you to like buy things, and they give you an award. It's not really an award, but you can use it for promotional purposes, I guess. So there's a lot of that stuff. So tell me about your experience there. Was that in England, or was it in Europe and somewhere else in Europe?
No, it was in London. So it's a very large conference. I think it's about 50,000 business owners or so go there every year.
Okay.
It's in a huge center called the Excel Center in London. And I was one of their brand ambassadors. I have been for a few years, but that was the first time, and it was a really incredible experience. So I made lots of connections there, learned lots of things while I was there. And in fact, a couple of years later, I exhibited there with my business.
There are exhibitors, well. Yeah. Okay, so exhibitors and presenters and platform speakers, the whole thing. Yeah, so it's similar to the business conferences in the United States.
Yeah, I'd imagine so. Okay,
so at that point, you said you were 15 when you got invited to that? What, you had already sold the business?
Yes, I had. So I was 15 for the first time that I went there.
So when you went there, you didn't have a business because you couldn't have a PayPal account.
I think, I had a bunch of other projects going at the same time as well. So I had like a small kind of, one-person agency where I was building websites and doing design for people. So I still had that going.
Like a side gig. Well, I think that's what freelancing is all about, right? A lot of people freelance because they want extra money. It's not necessarily a full-time job for them. But this whole community has really built up in terms of accessibility and the ability to do work for people, I guess, all over the world, really, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's really incredible what you can do nowadays. It's easier than ever to kind of, essentially create your own job and work from home.
Yeah. What are the common industries I think of are like graphic design, digital marketing, I guess tech development, things like that. But what are the more off the beaten path things you could do as a freelancer?
Well, the options are really endless. So our platform, we only allow things that can be done remotely and mainly kind of B2B services. But for example, just earlier today, someone who's a massage therapist and who did a bunch of other related things kind of reached out and wanted to see if they could use the platform. And unfortunately for now, we had to turn them down because obviously that's
you
not
can't do
something
that
you can do remotely.
Yeah, it'd be hard.
But yeah, it can really be anything and everything. But you're absolutely right. So things like graphic design, web development, like probably the creative industry,
right?
B2B services in the creative industry are probably the most
podcast
popular,
editing
sort of
I
types.
could get, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right, absolutely. Okay, so take me through it though. You at what point did you come back into this? Couldn't do it when you're 15. We know that. So.
Well, I was in my final year of university. We were in a COVID lockdown at the time. So obviously COVID changed the way we work remotely very drastically, very quickly.
Yeah.
And I was looking back at these freelancing platforms that I used, many years before. And to my greatest shock and horror, they hadn't changed anything.
Right. There was
in like 7-8 years, they had changed nothing, including not allowing video calling, which now was such an essential part of remote work.
Yeah.
And actually, today, a bit over 2 years later, it's still the exact same deal. They still haven't changed or adapted. So that's when I decided, about 2 years ago, to start Revolancer.
So through Revolancer, I can do a video call with the freelancer.
Absolutely, you can.
But you can't do it on the other ones.
You can't, because they make money through commission fees. So essentially, if they're relying on taking 20 or 25% of the transaction, it's in their interest to stop us from communicating in a phone call or video call or even outside of that platform in any way.
Right.
Because then we'll arrange to pay outside of that platform.
Yeah. Well, I've used for some editing, I think it was Upwork. And they, you text them and they're like, well, let's connect offline directly, because you have to connect directly at some point. You might send them a Google link to a Google Drive or some information that they need or something. And you could just go around the system. I mean, maybe they could get blackballed, I guess, eventually. And
that's exactly why that particular freelancing platform you just mentioned has actually started fining people for trying to communicate outside of the platform. So
right.
they'll fine you, and then I suppose if you don't pay the fine, they will take further action and ban your account.
Right, because it's the only thing that they can protect. They're protecting their income. All right, so I know we're jumping around a little bit, but tell me how Revolancer works differently than these other platforms.
Well, we solve those two problems. So first of all, external communication, and secondly, the commission fees, which causes the first problem. We solve those in a very, very simple way. So we don't charge commission fees, and therefore we can allow people to talk externally.
So people subscribe to the service. Is that what happens?
There's an optional subscription plan, but it's not. You can absolutely get started for free as well.
Okay. So what's your revenue model then?
Well, it's through this optional subscription model, also through B2B partnerships to kind of share the different freelance job opportunities that we have. Okay. But our main focus at the moment is just on growth and becoming one of the leading players in the industry.
And then that could lead to things like advertising or sponsorships or affiliate relationships or something like that.
Yeah, that there are lots of different opportunities there. But what's really important to us is to have a platform that is actually fair to freelancers and freelancers want to use, because that way we attract and build the best community of freelancers, which then in turn is the best result for the clients.
Right, and I guess as the community grows, the value of the business grows. Is that right?
Absolutely, yeah.
So if you have, 100,000 users now, then the value to whoever's involved is more because they can meet more freelancers or whatever.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. So this is an entrepreneur's podcast, right? The Accidental Entrepreneur. We talk about mistakes, problems, things you learned, advice for other people. And you said that you made some mistakes early on, and it was good learning experience. So tell me the mistakes you made, what you learned, what you would do differently.
Yeah, I mean, I've got a pretty good story here. I mean, the answer is I've made lots
Right,
of
of course.
mistakes. So we could be here all day, but there is one in particular that I think there's a nice kind of learning outcome from there as well. So when I was 18, I started a small web and design agency that wasn't just me. So there were a couple of other people involved as well.
Okay.
And within just a couple of months, we kind of went from starting it with pretty much nothing. I think we started with about £50,
Okay.
which is about 60 USD or so.
Okay.
And then essentially within a few months, we had gotten it to the point where we could move into, could just about move into an office on my high street.
Okay.
So, that was number one on my priority list.
Right.
It shouldn't have been. It was a complete vanity metric. It wasn't
You're
actually
like,
useful
if
to
we
the
have an
business.
office, we're somebody.
Yeah.
Right. Not true.
But one thing it was really good at was attracting the attention of the local newspaper. And they kind of did a front page of the business section kind of spread about 18-year-olds
highlighting the business, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
They felt good about it.
Absolutely. And actually that led to someone reading the newspaper, reaching out to me. I invited him over to the office. And it turns out that person had actually built a multi-billion pound kind of public company. And that same person is now an advisor of mine today. So I stayed in touch with him for the past 5 years.
Okay.
So, getting the office was a terrible idea. It was for all the wrong reasons. It made, kind of led to the, not really making any profits out of that. But it did lead to accidentally meeting this person who's now such a valuable advisor who I never would have otherwise. And I think that the lesson in that is just this idea of kind of failing forward.
Got it.
So you make a mistake, but you can still kind of make the most of a situation. So, now that kind of annoyance of getting the office, I'm very glad that happened, because otherwise I would have never connected with this great advisor.
Got it. Yeah. Well, look, everything's a learning experience, right? I think very few things that happen, even when you fail, that you don't learn something or make a contact or move on to something else. As you
Absolutely.
go. Right. Okay. So what happened with that? You guys fail? You had to close the agency?
Well, I mean, sort of. It just didn't really take off too much. And then I went to university about 6 months later and just scaled it down. Still worked with a couple of the, my favorite clients from there while I was at university for a couple more years. But yeah, I mean, my priorities kind of shifted. From the beginning, my heart was kind of a lot more set on doing something that could have a much larger impact on a much bigger scale. That's quite important to me, and with an agency, there's nothing wrong with having an agency, but that just wasn't really lining up with my kind of personal goals and ambitions too much.
Right. Got it. Okay. So what did you study at university? Was it business and entrepreneurship and things like that? Economics, finance?
Actually, not at all. Something completely different. I studied AI and robotics, a computer science kind of area.
Okay. But I would guess you're probably using some of that now, right? There's probably
a little bit. Yeah, absolutely a little bit. But my sort of role at Revolancer is very much around the kind of business management, administration, fundraising kind of side.
Got it. Did you work on Revolancer when you were at university still?
Yes, I did. I had the idea for it about halfway through my final year, and then focused pretty much full time on that with doing university on the side to get it off the ground.
Got it. What are some of the mistakes you made with Revolancer?
Probably the biggest thing that now I'm more aware of is the way I started Revolancer was I kind of thought, I had these problems as a freelancer. I can see that these problems hadn't been addressed.
Right.
So now I will go out there and fix them. That's risky because yes, I had those problems, but how do I know that other people have those problems?
Right.
And how do I know that other people would like my solution? Right. I was lucky. Lots of other people have the same problem. Lots of people like the solution. So, but that was luck.
Right.
That wasn't any kind of skill.
Right.
So,
you didn't do any market research and focus groups or anything like that.
So, and obviously we do that now. But if I could go back, I would from the beginning have, kind of developed the idea a lot more with the help of other freelancers. And then I think we could have gotten much closer to, the right product a lot sooner.
Yeah, no, I think that's a huge mistake business owners make. They're convinced why their customers do business with them. And 9 times out of 10, they're wrong. You were lucky.
Yeah,
but they're
absolutely
wrong. And then when something changes, you don't know what the change was that caused the business to struggle, because you thought they were buying for this reason and they're buying for another reason, or doing business with you, or using the platform for another reason.
Yeah, exactly. And that's not a mistake that I'll ever make again. And I'm glad that I kind of learned it now. But I think it's something that everyone goes through, with the first probably few businesses that they attempt. I guess,
yeah. I mean, look, the best ones I know are always asking their customers why they do business, how they can improve, what they didn't like, what their experience was. I would assume you're probably doing that now because you want to get feedback from all your users. So what's actually, you know what? Why don't we do this? I got to take a commercial break for about 2 minutes to support the sponsors, and then we can come back and talk about some advice you have for other entrepreneurs getting started, not necessarily in freelancing, but we can talk about both. And then, what the plans are for the future in terms of Revolancer. Does that sound good?
Yeah, sounds good to me.
Okay, then let's go to commercial. Here's a word from our sponsors. Looking to market and grow your business? Or perhaps you're just getting started and want to hit the ground running? Aweber is the best choice for online email marketing and automation of your business. From maintaining a subscriber list to drip campaigns and landing pages, Aweber gives you tools and integrations that make marketing easy and fun. As our partner and sponsor, we use all their tools to promote the podcast and market our law firm. Aweber, the best alternative for online marketing. For over 30 years, the Alternative Board, or TAB, has built a thriving community of forward-thinking CEOs and business owners who want to radically improve their companies. Through unique combinations of one-on-one business coaching, participation in monthly TAB board meetings with other non-competing owners, a suite of strategic tools, and customized strategic planning workshops, TAB membership can deliver greater strength to your business and a better work-life balance for you and your family. All packaged in a streamlined and affordable service that the people at TAB invite you to try risk-free. Maybe you're looking to get into podcasting, or you just want to market your business. Maybe you want to do it for enjoyment, or because you have a message you want to get out there. One of One Productions is a New Jersey-based studio just over the George Washington Bridge that caters to the booming business of podcasting. They offer a comfortable atmosphere using the latest technology available to record your podcast. And they are a full-service media company offering both audio and video production services, creating both audio and video podcasts, as well as video shorts for business and personal use. Professional audio equipment packages are available through their website for all budgets, and be sure to check out their podcast guesting kit, created especially for our listeners. Follow the link in the show notes to learn more about all of our sponsors. And now back to our show. All right, Karl. So where was I? What were we talking about? We're going to get into advice for, you can do one or the other, right? You can tell me about what the plans are with Revolancer, where you're going, what's going on. And then we could get into advice for business owners.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so just to chat quickly about Revolancer's plans first then. Essentially, what we're moving in now is really, fueled by speaking to freelancers and collecting feedback from our users. We are building a skills exchange platform, and that's actually live now. So it's live in beta at the moment. And essentially, it's all about facilitating, let's say you are a web developer and someone else is an accountant, and you need your accountants and they need a website, kind of facilitating a swap there.
So the freelancers working with the freelancers.
Exactly. But that's something that 40% of freelancers already do actively, and 9 in 10 of them want to do it again. So, it's something that
well, you could be a web programmer, but not necessarily a graphic designer, right? So you need the designer to make it look nice, and then you program the graphics and so forth. Yeah, it makes sense.
Absolutely. But there are a few key issues with, basically before this platform. So first of all, I need to want what you offer. You need to want what I offer. What we both offer needs to be of equivalent value, and it needs to be at the same time.
Right.
So there are so many things that need to line up, and the chances just aren't high that everything will line up nicely there. So essentially, our platform uses credits. I can deliver work to you. You pay me 1,000 credits, and I can then use those credits to source something from you. Or if I'm not looking for what you're offering, I can then use those credits to source something from someone else on the platform at a different time.
So they don't necessarily have to exchange money. A lot of people are just starting up or whatever, so they can swap services.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. But it doesn't make the platform any money. It's just a service to support the community, basically.
Well, that's correct, but we have B2B sort of partnerships set out, and then also in future we're going to have paid plans on that platform as well.
Got it. Okay. All right, I'll let you go. Keep telling me what else is coming.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, that's kind of been the big focus for the past few months. That went live just about a week ago now, a week or 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
And it's been going really well so far. So our current user base is adopting the new platform quickly. It also seems to be a lot more appealing actually to new users in our marketing than our previous platform ever was. Really excited about Revolancer beta and kind of the next steps there.
Right.
But really, I think that's a great illustration of that learning of building for the users and the customers first and foremost, rather than just thinking, what do I think is a problem that people experience, and what do I think would be a good solution for it?
Right. Just for those people listening, this is probably being posted in the fall, and it is May of 2023. So there's a good chance that we could be well out of beta by then and on the second or third generation of the service. So they should go and check out the website and see where you are at that point. We'll put an update in the show notes
absolutely,
when it comes out. Absolutely. Okay, so let's talk about, since you're a young entrepreneur, about advice for budding entrepreneurs or people that think they're going to start a business. It doesn't necessarily have to be what you're doing, but just advice and things like that. Do's and don't do's.
Sure. So a few things. I think first of all, changing the way you think about failure and risk. So, it's this idea of failing forward, seeing failure as a learning opportunity. And then also with risk, understanding that choosing not to do something is in itself a decision and it's an opportunity cost. I think within reason, do take risks. Fortune favors the bold. Right. And then ultimately, the other thing that I think is quite key is understanding that you cannot achieve everything you probably want to achieve just by yourself. So that means not only, working with kind of mentors and advisors and learning from people who have sort of, achieved a lot in the past before you, but also building and working with a really great team and understanding how to motivate them, how to work well with them, and ultimately hiring people who are much better at what they do than you are, and being comfortable with that. I think if you can nail those like two main categories of things, then you're off to a really good start. Yeah,
I think a lot of business owners start out solo and they have trouble getting to the next level. Maybe they're not even the right person, but at least you got to learn to be a good leader. Good leader doesn't do everything. Good leader does very few things. Delegates, gets good people working for them, motivates them, makes them feel empowered, makes them buy into the vision, and makes them mold the vision and shape the vision because they have input too. Those are the best organizations. And that definitely takes time and attention and, purpose, being purposeful about and proactive about what you do, as opposed to, just kind of accidentally letting it all happen, which unfortunately a lot of people do, like you said. Yeah, I think all that stuff's good advice. Okay, so if people want to, first of all, if I'm a freelancer, right, and I want to get on the platform, what do I do first? Do I have to pay a fee? You said it's a free service to start, right?
Yes. I can tell you what it is essentially for today. In a few months, something might have changed, but I think probably the best thing to do is to go to revolancer.com, and then from there, we'll be able to point you in the right direction to get started. And more likely than not, at the point that this podcast comes out, there is going to be kind of a free plan available as well. Got it.
Is there a hammering going on in the background or something over there?
No, it's sneezing.
Oh, that's funny. That's what you get with a live show. Okay, so and what was I asking you before? You were telling me That advice for business owners, people getting started. Are you planning on maybe raising capital to grow the business, or those aren't really in the works at this point? Like, you don't need additional capital. Not everybody does, but
Well, we certainly do. We have already raised a pre-seed round. We've got a VC backer and then a few angel investors as well. And we're planning to continue raising venture funding to keep scaling the business to the next level.
yeah. So you're 23. What has that experience has been like?
I mean, yeah, I suppose if I kind of take a step back, it has been a bit of a crazy experience. It's not something I've ever done before, Revolancer. But the way I got started is I kind of, realized that I don't know anything about fundraising.
Right.
Well, now I do, but back then I didn't know anything about fundraising. So my first, order of business is to find someone who does know about fundraising and then learn from them. And that's what I did. And that's how I managed to actually fast track the process quite a lot. But that's not just true for fundraising. That's true for quite a lot of things. So,
right, of course.
I think really important to work with people who have done it before and then learn from them.
Yeah, to be humble enough. That's what our sponsor, the advisory, the advisory board, TAB. I don't know if they have it in the UK, but it's a franchise. And, they put together boards of like-minded individuals. I don't know exactly how they do it, but so let's say you join, you're on a board of 15 people or 10 people, and you get together and you share ideas and talk about your problems and help other people. And it's a lot of that, it's like building your own advisory board for your company, which I'm a big advocate of. But it's a way to do it in an organization where you're networking, connecting with people, maybe in your same industry, maybe not.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, that sounds fantastic. I'll actually have a look at Tab as well for myself. But yeah, I mean, I couldn't recommend that highly enough to any kind of budding or, established entrepreneur as well, because ultimately you are never going to be the expert of everything. And
right.
The way you put yourself in the best position is working with different experts in lots of different areas.
Now, but beyond venture capital, angel investors, do you have partners that you are building the business with?
Well, yeah. I mean, we work, for example, with different co-working spaces, different co-working chains, that kind of stuff to onboard their communities and support skills exchanges, that kind of thing.
That are stockholders.
Oh, yes. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I have two co-founders who I work with. Yeah.
No, that's the word I was thinking of. Co-founders. Yeah, very good. Okay. How do you know these guys?
Both from university, actually, in one way or another. Yeah.
Yeah. And why are they in the room there? Are they listening to us?
Yes, they are.
Okay. So what made you guys come together to do this? Like, what, you're just buddies and you're like, hey, let's start a business? I mean, usually there's skills or reasons or feelings about things. I'm always curious.
Yeah, well,
what makes good partnerships?
No, absolutely. So, I mean, when I had the idea for Revolancer, it was still just me. I also secured the first bit of funding by myself through a competition at my university. But then, I quickly realized that, well, first of all, I need to kind of find someone to handle the development. And that was my background, probably, more than most things, doing a computer science degree. But I wanted to find someone who was significantly better than I was, who could then take that over while I focus more on the kind of business management and fundraising side. So I put out a coding challenge. It was shared by the computer science department. And then, a few people attempted it. And then finally, Sky attempted it, who did far better than anyone else in that. And we got on really well, and then have been working together for just over 2 years now.
Okay.
And then my other co-founder kind of initially helped more with the marketing side. So again, taking that over in a way that I wasn't quite able to. And she is now sort of our head of product. So, kind of bringing together business, technology, marketing, customers, feedback, that kind of thing, bringing all of that together to make sure that our product and product roadmap are really on the right track.
Good. Yeah, I think I talk about this a lot. I talked about it yesterday. We had a live show. That's one of the areas where people, I think, fall short. They don't look at themselves and say, okay, well, what do I do well? Like, we all have a lot of skills, right? But you shouldn't be doing everything. So what do I do well? How am I most effective? And what other people do I need to bring in, whether they're founders or they're employees or they're contractors or they're outside services, to support what it is I want to do. It's like 25% of the business plan, and people don't do that, and they get in the position where they have a couple of employees, and that one of the employees doing a lot of things, and then they're doing things, and they just can't let go. But if you have that from you're young, so if you have that from the beginning, and that's kind of the way you build it, you're not then trying to fix it later on. That's why I think business owners find themselves having to fix the road they went down, and now they can't be the CEO. They're not the person to do the business development because they're really a computer science person, and they should have brought somebody in to do that, or vice versa in this case, right? You doing the business development and growing the business, and he's doing the technology, and then you have your third partner. So, all right. So if we know about Revolancer, people can go there. If people want to kind of follow you and follow your story, what's the best way to interact with you and learn from you and so forth?
Sure. Yeah. Well, I mean, I've got a blog at karlswanepoel.com, my personal site.
Okay.
If that's maybe a bit too hard to spell or remember, I've also
we'll
got
put that in the show notes too.
Yeah, sure. Also, if you go to karl.im, it's just a short link that'll take you there.
Okay.
And then probably the best way if you want to contact me directly is through LinkedIn. So if you just look up my name on LinkedIn, then you'll find me.
Good. Well, we'll put that in the show notes too. All right. Any parting words? Any last minute things you want to share or mention or so forth? Because we're almost done.
Well, I'd say probably a third kind of piece of advice I'd give to people. It's the cliche one, but really, in some ways, probably the most important one is just that grit and determination. If you can only have one thing, then grit is what you need. It's much more important than intelligence, connections, money, et cetera,
right.
et cetera. It'll get you so much further. So yeah, just really stick with it, learn from your failures, work with great people. And then eventually, if you just keep sticking with it and don't give up, you'll get somewhere.
Right.
And it's been a lot of fun. Thanks very much for having me on.
I appreciate it.
Yeah,
no, definitely failure is not a message to stop. It's just a message.
No, I completely agree.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, Karl, I can't thank you enough. We'll go to the closing credits and just hang in there for a second.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of The Accidental Entrepreneur. Opening and closing music written and performed by Howie Moskovich and made to order music. For information about Howie and his music services, please follow the link in our show notes. If you like the podcast, please tell others about us. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, on Amazon Music, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and most of the other podcast directories. If you like what you hear, please leave us a 5-star review and feel free to share our episodes on social media. If you have any questions or comments, ideas for the show, or you'd even like to appear as a guest, reach out to us by email at info@beinhackerlaw.com.
The Accidental Entrepreneur is hosted by Mitch Beinhacker and produced by Beinhacker Law. If you'd like to learn more about our business and legal services, you can find us on social media or visit our website at beinhackerlaw.com. Thanks for listening, and be sure to subscribe to our feed to be notified of all future episodes.